Hello. Did you know that we as a civilization today love and cannot live without something
Damn it. Damn it.
that is slowly poisoning us, killing us, our food supply, and environment? Today I will explain to you that while oil is one of the most valuable resources on the planet, it is also detrimental to the planet, and so we as a nation need to look into other much safer energy sources. This is mainly because temperatures have risen roughly 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit from 1880 to 2012. This matters because the increase has caused an extinction of thousands of species that could only thrive in specific temperatures. That's only a little over a century since the Industrial Revolution, so if we want to last many more, we need to stop the rising temperatures. Oil has been forming naturally within the Earth's crust for over the past 100 million years. As recent as 1981, scientists estimated that the planet's oil reserves would be depleted by 2010. While this prediction has been deemed false, it is apparent that 58% of the planet's oil reserves have been depleted. The worst part of oil is that it's non-renewable, which means that the harmful effects aren't a one-time occurrence. They will keep happening so long as we use oil. Figuratively speaking, it comes into contact with almost every aspect of daily life. From driving to work to the plastic cups in someone's cabinets, oil is in some way, shape, or form involved. The majority is used for transportation, while the rest is used for materials such as polymers. It is the most widely used resource on the planet aside from land and water. It's useful because of hydrocarbons, which are chains of carbon atoms attached to hydrogen atoms that store massive amounts of kinetic energy. However, when this energy is emitted, harmful side effects are also emitted. There are many side effects to the use of oil, the first being where we get it from. The United States is extremely dependent on foreign oil, especially from the Middle East, which is not necessarily good. The second is that building the actual oil drilling rigs destroys both marine life and animal life when drilling onshore. And often, oil spills occur while transporting through the ocean. These oil spills destroy marine life and fishing industries. Lastly, the actual use of oil emits harmful greenhouse gases, which contribute to the raise in global temperature every year. Our current choices for producing energy are oil, wind, hydroelectric, solar, and nuclear. While oil is the easiest to extract from the planet and use, nuclear and hydroelectric power plants are much cleaner and can virtually produce the same amount of energy. Solar and wind energy are both incredibly green energy sources. However, they simply will never be able to produce enough energy to sustain the current usage levels at a reasonable cost. Recently, Northampton Community College has decided to try and run a 10 kilowatt wind turbine. The average household needs 5 kilowatts. The energy input to output ratio is 20%, which means that for every spin of wind turbine, or hour of a solar panel in the sun, only 20% of that energy is converted into electricity. With such low efficiency, it would take nearly all of Texas covered in wind turbines to power the United States. Wind turbines only produce 1/900th the amount of energy that a barrel of oil produces in an hour of high-speed winds. Solar panels create almost the same amount of electricity as wind turbines, but it will take 100 solar panels and $50,000 to equate to the same. The only energy sources that create a substantial amount of energy and don't hurt the environment are hydroelectric and nuclear power plants, provided that the nuclear power plant doesn't have any problems. Currently, nuclear power plants are the only realistic substitute for hydroelectric power when looking for clean energy. However, there are some myths. The first is that they are unsafe. There are two safety issues in the context of nuclear power: meltdown and terrorism. Both are essentially eliminated by next-generation fission technologies. Concerns about instances like Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, and Fukushima are what sparked debate about the creation of nuclear power plants. These power plants relied on active cooling, which failed. Active cooling is a cooling procedure that relies on an active source to supply water to the areas of high amounts of heat. However, it is possible to cool by using molten salt instead. That eliminates the need for active cooling, which in turn eliminates the chance of nuclear meltdown. The second myth is that we are unsure of what to do with nuclear waste. Only a small portion of what is used for nuclear power plants becomes radioactive nuclear waste. Even then, today, we have created the complete burning of nuclear fuel in molten salt reactors that eliminates the fear of having radioactive waste buried and leaking into the ground. The third myth is that nuclear power plants are massive, expensive, and problematic. All of these assumptions are false. Nuclear power plants are extremely efficient and thus because of their efficiency are rather small and fall close to the size of a typical power plant. The construction of a nuclear power plant costs roughly only 1.5 times that of a typical power plant driven by oil. The power plants run at atmospheric pressure, and so this eliminates the risk of explosion and the need for a large containment facility. Hydroelectric power plants are a great source of energy. 20% of all electricity generated on the planet is generated by hydropower. However, only 10% of electricity used in the United States is generated by hydropower. These types of power plants do not drastically alter the environment. They do not leave behind any waste, and they also prevent the burning of 22 billion gallons of oil and 120 million tons of coal every year. No greenhouse gases are produced, and no nuclear meltdowns could possibly occur from running water. These reservoirs created by hydroelectric power plants have for the most part positively affected the areas in which they are created, and normally the lakes and reservoirs become very productive fisheries. Any negative effects from hydroelectric power plants are greatly outweighed by the effects of coal burning, oil producing, and nuclear accidents. Overall, oil is an essential evil. It is one of the most widely used energy and pollutant sources on Earth. Since the Industrial Revolution, we have begun to deplete our oil reserves exponentially, and the clock is ticking until we run out of non-renewable fuel source. The only positives to oil are that it's easy and cheap to obtain, while the negatives are essentially that the more we use, the worse our planet becomes in nearly every aspect. Oil negatively affects our air, water, land, and food. We as a species need to invest in more clean, renewable sources of energy before it is too late. If this does not occur, the oil reserves will deplete to a level in which large wars will break out over oil, like they already have, and the human species may cease to exist.
650.